Hello, crew, captains here. So, in a previous video I asked you if you wanted to see my ban list, like list, dislike list, and hear me talk about it a bit. And a lot of people commented so that they would like to see it, so here I am. This video is for you. So, let's start with the banned cards. These cards will never appear on, in my ranked games, or basically in most games where ban list is respected, which I haven't played any games where it wasn't so far. Um, they will never appear there, so that's great. First of all, it's not a surprise probably, it's possession. A lot of people don't like it because of the stalemates that can happen when no players want to do anything on their turns anymore, other than play possessions. Of course that's terrible, but I also don't like the card in general. I just hate the idea of uh, having my opponents play with my deck. I usually like to build the better deck, and with possession it's usually either best to play many possessions yourself, or to have a terrible deck that just barely provinces a few times and doesn't do much more. Also, a lot of cards just are kind of broken with possession. Think about Haunted Woods, which makes your opponent just dirt. And Masquerade Ambassador, of course. Terrible. Also, I don't like that you can just remodel province into province and net gain a province or something like that. It's stupid. The first card that I initially wanted to put on the ban list, and it's still on the second place, is Swindler. This card makes the game so random. It's usually just right to open it, just with the hopes of hitting your opponent's good cards. The terrible thing is hitting your opponent's opens. They're 3 cost into a silver or worse. I don't know. Worse stuff than silver exists, I hear. Swindle their 5 cost into duchies, always terrible. Or dukes. Or just killing their non-terminals and making terminals out of it. You just can't reliably build a deck oftentimes with Swindler. Even trashing isn't really helping, because then usually I'm happy if they hit my coppers or estates, but if I trash them, Swindler always hits a good card. It's just super annoying. Mountebank, a card that junks the opponent with 2 cards at once is already pretty terrible. But then there's this randomness going on. Let's make the music a bit louder, a bit more quiet. This randomness going on if they have a curse or not, so potentially they could only be attacked really once, and then randomly always have the curse in hand. Of course you can adjust a bit and play multiple mountebanks, but in general, usually you go 1 mountebank or 2 mountebanks in the usual mountebank money thing, and then your opponent always has their curse to block, and you don't, so you have more junks, you play your mountebank even less, and it just goes out of control. Needless to say that you can't really build an engine with mountebank junking going on if there's no trashing or weak trashing. I don't really like cursing attacks. They are kinda random with how the splits go. And Familiar is even worse, because you have to open Potion for it, and then you can just miss Familiar, or the Potion can miss the shuffle, and then it's just really terrible, and in the end of the day you only got the Potion to get a useless cantrip that did nothing for your stuff. And the last card isn't there because it's too strong or making the decks terrible, but Philosopher's Stone is just so useless. I mean, it also wasn't the bottom cards, the worst card of all time, right? It costs 3 and a potion and is good when your deck is big, but you don't have the deck in your hand, so in junky games. But in junky games you rarely see your potion, and if you do, you might not see 3 coins with it, and then you don't see your Philosopher's Stone all that often. And yeah, that's bad times. Um, what else? I mean, even if the game is amazing for it, um, and you hit 12 or 13 worth of this, you won't have the extra buy usually. And for events, I have inheritance banned. Aside from all the quirky rules stuff, I just think it's so luck dependent. If you manage to hit 7 very early, then it's just game over so often. It's just so easy to just inheritance the best forecast on the board, usually a cantrip, and snowball from there, get all the estates, and your opponent just don't hit 7. Often it's just right to not even trash your estates and just hope to draw 7 at some point. And if your opponent does that 3 or 4 turns earlier than you, it's just sad times. Baths. I have it on here because it's low impact. And same with Philosopher's Stone, I didn't really say that, but if you ban the low impact cards, you are more likely to have high impact cards, and your boards on average will be stronger, more interesting. 9 card kingdoms are usually less interesting than 10 card kingdoms. And for Baths, it's more likely that a more interesting landscape will appear. Keep, on the other hand, is very annoying. Um, when you can score with money cards that might, first of all, make the game more money heavy, which makes it more random, but also it just might not ever end. Because the gold pile and the silver pile is pretty big. If you have played one of these single gain kingdoms where everyone is just buying gold, well then you will buy gold for 15 turns, because if you all you do is buying golds, your deck won't really get worse, but you also won't really get the game to end. So then you buy golds. Then you probably buy silvers. All assuming provinces are at 2 and you cannot buy the penultimate province or something. Then you can buy silvers, and then you might even buy coppers. And yeah, this is just really stupid sometimes. Um, Also, the tracking part is also not really fun. So tracking how many golds you have, how many silvers your opponent has, and so on. And sometimes with Kingdom Treasures it's kind of fun, but usually I don't really like keep games. So the dislike list will appear only in half of my games, or half of the games they usually would appear. There's Urchin. Um, sometimes Urchin can be kind of fun. It's nice to have a cantrip attack that discards a card. It's nice to have the mercenary attack. But in games with no other trashing, or just weak other trashing, opening double urchin and hoping they collide for you is just swingy, and both players usually do it when it's right. Just one player gets their mercenary, plays it turn 5, and yeah, you might not collide them. You might have to buy more urchins that lets you not buy better cards, and that's just GG usually. Page. Of course, the page line is rather interesting compared to some other dots or some cards, but it's also very swingy. The warrior attack can trash the opponent's warrior. The treasure hunter can give you useless junk depending when you play it. Sometimes you choose to not play it because you don't want 5 silvers. Um, the hero is fine, it's a good card. It's often even good to just keep the hero. Sometimes you don't need the champion. And the champion just says, well, maybe there's a smithy type card on the board and you get your champion first on the top of the shuffle 3 turns earlier. That's just over. Sometimes you are champion, or it also says, hey, all your attacks are useless now, you cannot stop me from my lead. Um, I make, imagine there are 3 attacks on the board, but they are all useless now because you got champion. I mean, there are other cards that defend from attacks, but champion is just makes the game kind of boring. I don't have to care about attacks anymore, don't have to care about actions anymore. I'm just clicking cards, buying provinces, or ending the game in some other fashion. Ambassador is also, of course, swingy. Sometimes it's right to open double ambassador, sometimes it's not right, but then the one player might miss the shuffle, might collide the ambassadors, or ambassadors miss a shuffle, or ambassadors don't collide with 2 estates, and for the other player it does. And it's also very destructive. Often it's just right to not buy anything and ambassador them 2 coppers. Um, then when you try to build back up, get some economy, your opponent starts junking you. The games just take like 10 turns longer on average. I don't know. It's really, of course, it's a high skill card. I didn't ban it. I don't mind the occasional ambassador card game, but it's also a bit annoying. Cultist is the same. Some boards, there's just nothing better to do than Cultist money. I mean, at least those games are over quick, right? Um, I don't like losing to it, but oftentimes there's nothing you can do. Your opponent hits double five on their second or first shuffle. He sees the Cultists on top and sees them again on the next turn. Yeah, and you didn't hit five or something, then it's just over. But also there's often enough nowadays good enough trashing to somewhat deal with ruins. And the when you trash this effect is kind of interesting. So I don't mind it, seeing it sometimes. And Transmute is here for the same reason as Philosopher's Stone. I don't think it's as useless as Philosopher's Stone, but I mean, maybe 1% of the time you gain it compared to 0.5. It's not all that high impact, so I don't mind seeing it less often. Annex, the same low impact event that's usually just there to get the late game duchy when you need it, or get the zero cost duchy on your last turn. I don't mind seeing it, but I rather see other things. Wall, on the other hand, I don't like. I don't like it that some boards you can't just build a nice engine because it will score you so many negative points. It's a bit annoying on games with no trashing, but I mean it's affects both players. It's just not my kind of card I would like. And Museum, maybe an odd choice, but I don't really like that you can just buy one of everything and have it be worth points for you. I don't know. Makes the boards be kinda, can't really explain it. Just don't like that you can do stupid stuff and which would normally not be correct, but now I have to get this huge point amount that I have to catch up with. I'd rather build the optimal deck and um, or the deck that would be optimal without Museum and win that way, but now I have to buy one of the Transmute, or well, maybe not Transmute, okay, but one of the Navigators and one of the Harbingers or something, just because there's a bit of points I need to catch up with. I don't know, it's just a bit annoying and also gives an uninteresting incentive to buy every card, I think, rather than buy them for what they are actually useful. And now, onto the nice cards of this game. Magic Hero. I really like the concept of this card. Having a +3 card +1 buy card is of course nice, but now you also have to adjust if you want to have it trashed maybe. Often it's really good to have it trashed. And gain the gold, or maybe even something better. Platinum, bank, fortune, stuff like that. And other times you don't want to have it trashed and try to keep your hand size low. And it's really nice to find the balance, and I like the way that plays out. Also, Tragic Hero is probably stronger than many people think. Just because it goes away doesn't mean draw isn't good. Sometimes it's the only draw, even and draw is that good that even if it goes away after a few turns and turns into a gold, which by the way, gold isn't that bad of a card when you don't have reliable draw. Um, or if you have terminal draw with Y, gold is pretty good then. Um, Also, you didn't have to pay 6 for it, then gold is pretty good. And if you can keep the hand size low, then +3 card +1 buy is amazing. And you can mega turn on the last turn, gain a bunch of golds on purpose and end the game. Or even get a bunch of capitals. Man, that segue was nice. Capitals, another one of my like cards. Um, it's really nice that how you can play with capital, get a bunch of coins and a buy, and decide which cards are the best to accelerate your game. And you might say, well, it's basically just treasure with a buy and no real money, but keep in mind that your turns get more and more effective, so the 6 coins now are worth more than 6 coins would be on your next turn. because maybe you buy cards that allow you to generate 9 coins next turn. So it was like a gold with a buy at this point. And sometimes it's even much better than that. And then Villa, I just really like the cards. You also see Cavalry already here that allow you to return to your action phase. This one is pretty fun. Gives you actions when you need them. Of course, sometimes you miss 4 and are really sad, but well, that happens, I guess. Um, yeah, there's really nice stuff you can do with gain and play, with draw to X. Just a really fun card, I think. Of course, Captain, apart from being pretty beautiful art, but I mean, I could not put it on my like list, honestly, but um, I also don't dislike how it plays. It's really a cool effect, lets you consider the whole board and rearrange which 4-cost cards are optimal for this situation. Play your cantrip on the turn you play it, then play a draw card on the next turn or something like that. Really cool stuff you can do with it. Sometimes it's your only village, and sometimes you just win because you hit 6 earlier and played it earlier, but I mean, other cards do that as well. And Cavalry is another one of the Villa type. Might even be more interesting than Villa because it's not just a no-brainer like Villa. You can really screw yourself up buying it too often. Um, and I mean, gain 2 horses is an okay effect, but when you gain it, you can use it to draw extra cards. Maybe you didn't draw your good cards and need some more draw for exactly this turn. Oh, now it's gone. uh, let's re-enter it. Then donate. I really like the games where you have perfect control of your deck and where you have to plan in advance. Maybe not all that much in advance, but usually pretty good in advance how you want your deck to be built up. It's low randomness event, which makes it a high skill card. And yeah, there's the big first player advantage, but it's always nice to be second player and win on a donate board. That makes you feel powerful. Salty Earth, I have a soft spot for this one. I think it's pretty powerful. I like Salty Earth rushes. I like when your opponent just is getting panicked because you are emptying the provinces and they aren't ready to province yet because they started trashing or investing into universities or other stuff that makes them slow. And then they suddenly have to green with other stuff and aren't really ready and their deck just gets obliterated or they just get province ended, turn 11 or something. That's always fun. Sometimes it doesn't work. The last league game I had with eHonda, it didn't work, but sometimes it also does, and then it's pretty fun. I don't know, I put transport on here. I don't even remember when I did it, but I had the transport cage match, and I think transport is a pretty fun event. Makes you think about your opens more, makes you think about transporting expensive cards, and for now it's here. Maybe it changes. I haven't even seen it that often in random games since the cage match with Hexecutable. So we will see. Maybe that goes away and be replaced by another event. But for now I like it, and I also wanted to put some new cards on my like list from Menagerie to see those a bit more often. Also, keep in mind that like lists are very rarely used. Sometimes in league games or in friendly games, but the latter only use the default dislike and banned list. And there you have it. These are my 15 cards and 9 events that I put on my list. I hope you enjoyed the content. Put a thumbs up and leave a comment if you want to see something else that interests you. Um, and see you soon. I'm going to play a league match in 5 minutes, actually. So, nice. This will be a double upload, I guess. Goodbye.